Here's something that genuinely stopped me when I was researching this. Scientists at Harvard followed over 100,000 people for 28 years. And what they found was that the foods people ate in their 40s weren't just affecting how they felt then. Those choices were literally shaping how their brains and bodies functioned decades later. What you put on your plate today is casting a vote for the person you'll be at 75. And for most of us, nobody ever explained this in a way that actually made sense. So that's what this video is. No gimmicks, no supplements to sell. Just the actual science. Real studies, real numbers. On which foods protect your body and brain through your 40s, 50s, and 60s. Your 40s, the turning point. Most people think aging is something that happens to you later. But the biology disagrees. Research published in Nature Medicine identified two major waves of molecular aging, one around 34 and a bigger one around 60. The setup for that second wave starts in your 40s. This is when inflammation quietly creeps up, your metabolism shifts, and muscle mass begins declining at roughly 1% per year. A condition called sarcopenia that's one of the most underappreciated threats to long-term quality of life. The research consistently points to anti-inflammatory foods as the frontline defense. At the top of that list is fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines. A meta-analysis of 19 clinical trials found that omega-3 fatty acids significantly reduced inflammatory markers like IL-6 and CRP. The American Heart Association recommends at least 2 servings of fatty fish per week, and whole food sources appear more effective than supplements alone. Pair that with walnuts. A 2020 UC study found regular walnut eaters had measurably lower inflammatory biomarkers, and a separate study in the Journal of Nutrition linked walnut consumption to better cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to adapt and switch between tasks. Most 42-year-olds aren't thinking about that yet. Probably should be. Your 50s protecting your brain. In your 50s, cognitive health becomes a real conversation. Globally, someone develops dementia every 3 seconds, and risk starts escalating meaningfully around 55. But the dietary prevention research here is genuinely encouraging. The MIND diet, developed at Rush University specifically to target brain aging, was studied in a landmark trial published in Alzheimer's and Dementia. People who closely followed it had a 53% lower rate of Alzheimer's disease. Even moderate adherence cut risk by 35%. Those are not small numbers. 2 foods drive a huge part of that effect. First, leafy greens. A 5-year study tracking 9 and 60 older adults found that eating just 1 serving of leafy greens daily was associated with cognitive function equivalent to someone 11 years younger. 11 years! From 1 cup of spinach. Second, berries. Research from the Nurses' Health Study, over 16,000 women, found higher berry consumption was associated with a delay in cognitive aging of up to 2.5 years. The anthocyanins in blueberries and strawberries cross the blood-brain barrier and appear to slow the accumulation of the toxic proteins linked to Alzheimer's. And then there's extra virgin olive oil. A compound called oleocanthal has been shown to help clear amyloid plaques from the brain by enhancing its own waste removal system. A Spanish clinical trial found people on a Mediterranean diet with added Evo significantly outperformed a low-fat control group on cognitive tests, not marginally, significantly. If this is landing for you, if you're thinking, okay, I genuinely need to pay more attention to this, hit the like button right now. It helps this reach people who need to hear it. And it tells me this kind of content is worth making more of. 2 seconds means a lot. Your 60s bones, gut, and muscle. By your 60s, the priorities shift toward bone density, cardiovascular health, and muscle preservation. And food is still one of your most powerful tools. On bone health, calcium alone isn't enough, and that's a myth worth retiring. A BMJ study found that vitamin K2, found in fermented foods, like natto and aged cheeses, plays a critical role in directing calcium into bones rather than arteries. Combined with vitamin D3, K2 has been shown in clinical trials to improve bone mineral density, far more than calcium supplements alone. Fermented foods also transform gut health in ways that matters deeply at this stage. A Stanford study published in Cell in 2021 found that a high fermented food diet, yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, dramatically increased microbiome diversity and reduced 19 inflammatory proteins in the blood. Gut health in your 60s is now understood to connect directly to immune function, mood, and cardiovascular risk. For heart protection, legumes are wildly underrated. A study across 5 countries found that across completely different cultures and dietary patterns, legumes were the single most consistent predictor of longevity in people over 70. Every 20 grams of daily legume intake, roughly 2 tablespoons of lentils, was linked to an 8% reduction in mortality risk. And protein. This one is critical. Because of something called anabolic resistance, your muscles become less responsive to protein signals as you age, meaning older adults actually need more protein to maintain the same muscle mass. Most researchers now argue the optimal intake in your 60s is 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, nearly double the standard recommendation, which was set based on studies that mostly excluded people over 60. What works across all 3 decades? A few things hold up consistently across every decade. Turmeric, specifically curcumin, has been studied in over 3,000 peer-reviewed papers. An 18-month randomized trial in the American Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry found that adults taking bioavailable curcumin showed significant improvements in memory and attention with brain scans, showing less amyloid accumulation than the placebo group. One key detail: pairing turmeric with black pepper increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%, thanks to a compound called piperine, so turmeric and black pepper together in cooking is genuinely evidence-backed. Green tea is another consistent performer. A Japanese study of over 40,000 adults found that drinking 5 or more cups daily was associated with significantly lower all-cause mortality. Even 1 to 2 cups appears to offer real benefits through its catechins, particularly EGCG. And the bigger pattern, the Blue Zones research, studying communities with the world's highest concentrations of centenarians in places like Sardinia, Okinawa, and Ikaria, found no single magic food. It's the overall dietary pattern, eaten consistently over years and decades, that drives extraordinary longevity. Whole, minimally processed food. That's the through line in virtually every long-term study. Here's my honest takeaway: you don't need to overhaul everything overnight. Pick one thing from this video and start there. Maybe it's fatty fish twice a week, a handful of walnuts in the morning, or spinach in a smoothie you already make. The best change is the one you actually stick with. If you want to go deeper on the mind diet, gut health, or protein optimization as you age, there's more coming. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. And if this was useful, share it with someone in their 40s, 50s, or 60s. This is the kind of information that can genuinely change someone's path. See you in the next one.